Little girl exposes incredible act of kindness. How a Marine and his K9 transformed a winter hunt. As the snowflakes swirled around her, Sarah's heart raced with excitement. Setting off on an adventure with her father into the snowy Rockies felt like stepping into a fairy tale. But something was nagging at the back of her mind, a flutter of uncertainty, like the faint chorus of wind whispering secrets. She couldn't shake the feeling that this hunting trip was more than just a father-daughter bonding outing. Soon they met Sam, a retired Marine, rugged and gruff, his loyal K9, Max, shadowing him like a thick cloak. Sarah was drawn to them instantly, curiosity bubbling inside her. Why did Sam seem so distant, his laughter barely brushing the surface? As they trekked through the untouched powder, she began to see snippets of kindness in his behavior. He helped a struggling hunter carry his gear and paused to gently free a trapped rabbit from a vine. Each small act unraveled a piece of her heart. She wondered about the man behind the stoic exterior. "Do you miss the military?" she asked, her innocent eyes sparkling, plunging headfirst into delicate waters. The smile that flickered on Sam's face instantly vanished, replaced by shadows in his gaze. Before they could continue the conversation, Sarah's spirit surged. She wanted to help him. Veterans deserved more than reverence from afar. They needed purpose. Yet a wave of doubt crashed into her thoughts. What if he rejected her conversation? What if her questions dug too deep and hurt him? She raised her voice just as an icy gust swept through the pines, and the words escaped her lips. "I think you have important stories to share." The plea hung in the air for a moment, each second thickening with tension. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But just as they threaded deeper into the woods, laughter turned into a cold snap of reality. A fellow hunter's shout echoed through the trees filled with terror. Panic echoed among them all. The urgency of rescue froze the air at their throats. Sarah felt a surge of fear, her muscles tense. She wanted to run, but found herself stuck in the heaviness of the moment. As tensions escalated, she glanced at Sam, who seemed to fight an internal battle of his own, the shadows creeping back into his posture. Here was her chance. They needed each other. Her innocence, his strength. But even as her mind raced, another thought gripped her. Could a girl like her really make any difference in a world held hostage by past demons? What if she failed him? The clutches of uncertainty pulled tighter. She sensed that the day was turning from innocent joy to fierce trials. Would Sam rise to the occasion, or remain ensnared in his quiet struggle? Sarah stood on the brink of discovery, her heart pounding rapidly, wondering if this winter hunt would truly unite them or shatter her notions of courage forever, as time seemed to hang in the air, poised at the edge before chaos erupted. The moment of dread hung thick in the air like the heavy snowfall around them. Sarah's instincts told her to move, yet she felt frozen, her feet riveted to the ground. The crack of a gunshot echoed, biting through the frozen serenity, sending splinters of panic racing up her spine. She knew they had to act fast, but felt herself teetering on the edge of sheer fear and determination. Sam's hardened exterior shifted. Urgency replaced the shadows in his gaze. He was no longer the distant figure she'd observed moments before, but a man ignited by necessity. "Stay close, Sarah," he instructed, his voice low yet commanding, cutting through the chaos. She nodded despite her pounding heart, the innocence of her childhood quelled under the weight of his presence. Together they sprinted toward the sound of distress, the deep crunch of snow beneath their feet echoing their urgency. Sam bounded ahead, Max following suit, steadfast like a guardian. In that moment, Sarah saw him, truly saw him. A protector not just of flesh but of spirit, ready to confront his own demons while rescuing others. As they approached a cluster of men encircled around a form lying in the snow, a brutal reality set in. The injured hunter lay motionless, the pallor of his skin stark against the whiteness. Her stomach twisted. Fear clawed at her throat. but she recognized a resolve building within her. She could not retreat into the shadows. "Sam," she urged, her voice breaking through the panic. "What can I do to help?" His surprised glance met hers, and for a brief second, uncertainty flickered across his face. But then, the familiar intensity returned, and he directed her with an immediacy that shook her from her stupor. "Get my pack. I need the first aid kit," he barked, and without a beat, Sarah rushed to obey. It was no longer about just observing his story. It was about becoming a part of the narrative that strayed from fairy tales and ventured into the realm of harsh reality. As she fumbled with the pack, time stretched grotesquely. She thought of her father, of the love that enveloped their lives, and of how this moment was redefining everything she understood about bravery. While her hands moved, her mind churned, a jumble of thoughts wrestling with one another. Could she really take on this weight? Share the burden of seasoned warriors? She returned, handing him the kit. Watching him work with precision ignited a flame inside her, a desire to stand shoulder to shoulder with someone whose existence had been steeped in turmoil and sacrifice. There was a lesson in this moment. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. As Sam applied pressure and assessed the situation, Sarah watched closely, soaking in how he harnessed his training, his instinct connecting him to the fallen hunter. She recognized the power of partnership, the synthesis of human and dog, where every breath and every heartbeat mattered. The sight around them blurred into a backdrop, the world constricted to the pressing urgency of saving a life. For each moment that ticked away, Sarah forged a path from observer to participant, from innocent child to aspiring warrior. And as tension hung like the heavy snowfall around them, she began to understand what lay beneath her own uncertainty. Just as Sam had once faced his fears, she too could discover her own strength. But with each passing second, another realization crept in. What if she would have to grow up faster than she ever anticipated? The weight of the moment solidified into clarity. This journey was not merely about overcoming fear, but uncovering her own resilience. And she felt the unshakable truth. Sam's fight against his past was intertwined with her uncharted future. But then, a voice broke through the air like a thunderclap. "We need to move him now." Not finished yet, Sarah's heart pounded louder. Would she find a way to support Sam while standing firm in her own burgeoning resilience? Without hesitation, Sarah settled into a rhythm as chaos undulated around her. She could feel the icy air sharp in her lungs, but each breath ignited an ember of resolve. Acknowledging her own fears was halfway to conquering them. Sam was now her guide, and in witnessing his competence and urgency, she sought to emulate his spirit. "Sarah, get over here and help me lift him." Sam's command snapped her back to the moment. She rushed to his side and crouched down, glancing at the wounded man, who seemed to be fighting an invisible battle with unconsciousness. The sight of his pale lips fueled her determination, but anxiety still coiled tightly within her. The moment Sam gripped the man's shoulders, Sarah moved instinctively. They positioned themselves on either side, ready to lift. Sweat mingled with snowflakes on her brow, as they readied to hoist their charge. There was palpable tension in the air, a shared recognition of what was at stake. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Together they lifted, a cacophony of urgency budding into synchronicity. As they moved him, Sarah felt the weight of his body reflect against her own. Every muscle screamed in protest, but a new understanding took shape. This wasn't merely about lifting a wounded body, it was an acknowledgement of lives entwined in moments of collective vulnerability. Once on the ground where it was relatively clear of snow, Sarah dropped back, focused on her breathing as Sam assessed the hunter's injuries. She watched him transform, the fragility of the situation evoking a quiet ferocity. He was no longer just a protector in the abstract. Here was a skillful medic guiding the rescue with precision and calm. Over the rush of voices around them, another thought wormed its way into her mind. She had never been in a position to make a difference before. Knowing she was at the forefront, willingly stepping into this chaotic space, felt different. In the past, she often measured herself against others, but this moment reshaped her competition. That nagging self-doubt morphed into the daring will to contribute. As they continued working in concert, Sam's voice grew steadier, coaxing the hunter to respond. "Stay with us, buddy." When their eyes met, a new connection was forged, one of mutual commitment. "Can you grab more snow?" he asked, glancing at her with an intensity that both inspired trust and ignited her determination. She nodded, scrambling through the snow to pack fresh ice in a makeshift compress. As she worked, purpose coursed through her veins, and the tremblings of fear began to dissolve. Amidst the tumult and overshadowing uncertainty, a clear question emerged. Who was she becoming in this crucible of adversity? The burden of that uncertainty shifted from a burden to an opportunity. It was exhilarating, yet terrifying. But Sarah found strength in the sheer act of engaging, her skills, her emotions, her place in this narrative. "Good," Sam replied, observing her efforts. "You're doing incredible." For the first time, praise felt less like a concession and more an acknowledgement of her emerging identity. Each word he spoke lifted layers of doubt. She could sense the spark of self-acceptance beginning to smolder. As they remained focused on the hunter, another gunshot fired in the distance, tearing through the bleakness of the moment. Sarah's heart raced, the calm they'd built fracturing into new anxieties. She glanced at Sam, who locked eyes with her, urgency amplifying. "Stay close. Don't break rank no matter what happens," he instructed, and Sarah could feel the concrete nature of that command shift everything. This was more than an emergent crisis. It was a dire game where every choice mattered. Would she freeze in the face of further danger, or could she push through, becoming someone capable of holding her ground? She steeled her resolve, recognizing that while life was unraveling harshly, it was in moments like this that true growth often sparked. An unexpected shadow crossed her mind, a nagging thought rooted in her fears, begging for acknowledgement. If a deeper threat was lingering in the woods, would she really have what it takes to confront it? The snow continued to fall, draping them in a surreal silence even as their world vibrated with uncertainty. One thing began to crystallize: her evolution had only just begun. But as the echo of the gunshot lingered in the air, a deeper question arose. Would her journey emerge as one of stark bravery, or one haunted by what she failed to confront? Sam's voice broke through the noise, grounding her in the present once more. "We need to get him stable and find shelter. Follow my lead." A rush of adrenaline coursed through Sarah as she understood the urgency woven into every word. This was more than mere survival. It was an opportunity for transformation, to shift from passive concern to active participation. As Sam hurriedly worked on the hunter, Sarah felt the weight of the responsibility settling on her shoulders. Every bandage she fetched, and every assessment she shared with Sam, was more than a task. It was a declaration of her resolve to move beyond her own limitations. "Pressure's low," Sam exclaimed, his tone sharp. "We need to keep him warm, pack him tighter." Absorbing the gravity of his statement, she instinctively reached for another layer from their supplies, her fingers fumbling slightly, betraying the exterior calm she was trying to project. In the rush, Sarah grasped at the fabric like it was the last piece of a puzzle, desperate to make every moment count. "You're doing well, Sarah, but keep that focus," Sam encouraged, seemingly attuned to her fluctuations of confidence. The affirmation felt like a vitally placed bandage, one that helped cover the rawness of self-doubt she had always carried. With each task she completed, she felt the coherence between her thoughts and actions start to crystallize into a formidable resolve evolving within her. "Here," she panted, tossing the blanket from her hands over the incapacitated man. It was a small victory, but for Sarah, victory was an unfamiliar feeling, especially in the midst of chaos. Yet with that victory, a gnawing question wormed its way back into her mind. Could she truly face whatever was lurking in the shadows? The gunshot still echoed in her ears, a grim reminder that threats could emerge any moment, shattering the cocoon of her newfound confidence. Pushing the fear aside, she silently vowed that she would stand protectively between the hunter and whatever danger lay beyond. "Keep an eye on the trees," Sam instructed. "If you spot anything, warn me." Her heart sank at the realization. This was a test she hadn't anticipated. Shifting her attention from the rescue to the potential predators lurking beyond the flimsy veil of snow-laden pine trees, intensified the chaos within her. It was a test of her will and her ability to contribute meaningfully. "Got it," she replied, far more steady than she felt. As Sam worked diligently, her senses heightened. Every rustling branch, every gust of wind felt magnified. There was an urgency in the air, a palpable tension that combined their shared survival instinct with the raw, shattering fear of the unknown. And yet, amidst it all, a sense of clarity formed. Standing here, albeit terrified, she was starting to truly understand what it meant to be alive. Truly alive. Each passing moment drew her deeper into connection, not just with the tasks at hand, but with a part of herself she had barely recognized until now. "Sarah," Sam suddenly called, shaking her from her thoughts. "Look." She turned her focus back to the tree line, eyes straining against the dim light. Her breath hitched in her throat when she caught sight of a dark figure moving cautiously between the trees. Suspicion coiled tightly in her chest. Fear mingled with the determination she had been cultivating, threatening to unravel the progress she had just achieved. "Stay still," Sam hissed, his voice sharp. "Don't take your eyes off it." The adrenaline spiked again, and Sarah's thoughts descended into frantic whispers. How had it come to this? How was she supposed to confront whatever danger had emerged? With anxiety clawing at her insides, she peered out, fully aware that this moment would define not just the fate of the hunter, but her very essence as a person. The hunter's life dangled precariously in the balance, and by extension, so did her chance at transformation. Would she act decisively, or would she shrink back, haunted by doubt? The moment loomed over her as the figure paused, turning its head, revealing sharp eyes that glinted coldly in the fading light. The air thickened with anticipation. In that charged silence, Sarah realized the true nature of her journey was about to begin, and the stakes were far greater than she could have ever imagined. Would she rise to the occasion and face the threat lurking just beyond the tree line? The answer awaited her, hung like an uncut thread in the wind, poised to unravel. Time seemed to stretch impossibly in that breathless moment, her thoughts racing as sharply as the figure's eyes pierced through the gathering dusk. The shadows twisted around her. They were the very manifestations of her fears, a reflection of the insecurities she had carried for too long. What if she faltered now? What if courage failed her at the precise moment it was needed most? As the figure continued to linger at the edge of the tree line, Sarah felt the weight of decision pressing heavily on her chest. This wasn't merely about survival. It was about profound personal evolution. Each heartbeat hammered against her resolve, a reminder that she had arrived at a defining crossroads of her identity. Her hands shook, but she clenched them into fists, a physical commitment to the potential she could claim. "Stay alert," Sam murmured beside her, his voice steady yet strained. It was grounding. He trusted her, and that belief began to dissolve her paralyzing self-doubt. There was something essentially wrong with her. A false narrative woven over years had taught her to hide from adversity rather than confront it. Why had she never questioned that? She stole a glance at the hunter, whom they were fighting to save. His life was precarious, teetering at the edge of survival. Suddenly, it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about fulfilling a responsibility she had now embraced, allowing herself to feel the weight of that duty rather than recoil from it. The thought ignited something deep within, the flicker of determination she hadn't known she possessed. The dark figure, still observing, stepped forward and panic gripped her anew. A moment's hesitation lingered, and at that moment, the pivotal moment, Sarah made a choice. "We have to distract it," she whispered, her voice barely above the gusts of the wind. Sam turned sharply to her, a questioning lift of his brow signaling for her to continue. "If we can create a diversion, maybe a sound or even lighting a signal fire, we might have a chance." The realization surprised her. She was thinking like a protector, not just a bystander. "It's going to be risky," Sam replied, but Sarah could see a spark of intrigue ignite in his eyes. "Risk is the price of assurance. I need you to trust me," she asserted, her heartbeat steadying as her inner resolve surged. Sam hesitated, measuring her with a gaze she could no longer read. She felt the urgency gnaw at her, each breath reminding her that the hunter's life and perhaps their own safety hung in the balance. "All right, Let's do it, he finally said, nodded. As they crafted a plan, she felt a sense of liberation unfurling within her. With newfound decisiveness, she rummaged through the supplies, searching for anything that could potentially create a distraction. A canister of flares caught her eye, its bright red exterior promising hope. Here, this could work, she declared, her pulse racing as she gripped it tight. Sam's eyes widened with realization. Good thinking. If you can get it ignited over there, he pointed to a clearing some distance away. You'll draw that thing away from us. The fear still clung to her, but it was now intertwined with her determination, coalescing into a fierce clarity. She felt an emerging sense of agency growing within her, knitting together the pieces of who she had been with who she was becoming. On 3, Sam said, his calm voice steadying her nerves. As they prepared for their simultaneous execution of the plan, Sarah found herself staring into the darkness. There was no turning back. She would stand her ground. She wouldn't be the girl who ran away anymore. Her grip on the flare tightened as she counted. 1, 2, 3. With a swift motion, she struck the flare, and its flare ignited brilliantly, casting wild shadows as it reached into the unknown. As she hurled it towards the clearing, a sense of liberation overcame her. But before she could exhale, a rustle in the brush drew her gaze back to the tree line. The figure had vanished, leaving only the weight of her choice suspended in the air. Had it retreated, or was it simply biding its time? That uncertain silence wrapped around her, each lingering second reminding her that she was still teetering on the edge of self-definition. And whatever lay ahead demanded every ounce of courage she had just begun to muster. And as she stood there, pulse pounding, ready to confront whatever came next, a shiver ran down her spine. The darkness held more than just uncertainty. It beckoned with promise and peril, a duality she now had to face head-on. What awaited beyond this moment would not just test her. It would compel her to confront the person she was meant to become. The figure returned, a shadow against the night, moving with silent purpose. Sarah braced herself. She was about to face the unknown, and her response would redefine everything. The flare erupted into a blaze of color, illuminating the surroundings, casting stark contrasts between light and shadow. Sarah's heart raced as the brightness lit the dark figure, revealing nothing more than a menacing silhouette against the backdrop of the trees. The momentary distraction filled her with uncertainty. The creature could have retreated, or it could be pondering its next move. She and Sam shared a glance, one that expressed both fear and a shared resolve to face what lay ahead. Time seemed to slice through their determination. A minute felt like hours laden with tension. The pulse of the forest echoed the weight of their lives intertwined in this moment. "Stay close," Sam instructed, his voice taut but firm. Sarah nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She could feel the energy shifting, a fine line between dread and empowerment widening as she felt the surge of adrenaline course through her veins. They were no longer mere spectators of their fate. They were active participants determined to shape their reality. As the blaze of the flare began to wane, she grabbed Sam's arm, pulling him slightly closer. "We need to move. If it comes this way." Before she could finish, a chilling rustle arose from the tree line, pulling her focus back to the shadow. It shifted, but then moved away, drawn to the light. Sarah observed the creature with a wary curiosity. Fear still nipped at her heels, yet something deeper stirred within her. "Let's go," she urged, leading the way away from the clearing. Each step felt like a breakthrough, a poignant moment where she refused to yield to fear. With every cautious footfall, Sarah reminded herself of the responsibility she bore. They were doing this for the hunter, for each other, and for the parts of themselves they were still discovering. "Do you think it's gone?" Sam asked, glancing back toward the direction of the flare's fading glow. "I don't know. But the longer we stay here, the more chance we give it to regroup," she replied, her voice steadying with conviction. Despite the gnawing questions echoing in the back of her mind, the process of thinking critically about their next steps empowered her. Trusting her instincts had opened doors she never knew existed. The shadows danced with them as they navigated further into the underbrush. Sarah felt a pressing urgency. No longer was she a passive participant. She was making choices, pushing the boundaries of who she had been. The fear that once confined her seemed to dissolve with each determined stride. They reached a small outcropping where they paused. Sam let out a breath, his expression reflecting relief but also a commingling of anxiety. What next? We need to keep moving away from the tree line, find a higher ground. She stepped forward, her mind racing with strategies. From there, we can locate the hunter and assess how close we are to safety. Okay, Sam said, respect crackling between them. You're really stepping up. Those words resonated within her, warming her with validation. Each layer of doubt that had once enveloped her began to peel away. Every decision, every action she took, began to define her, not just as someone fleeing from danger, but as a person who confronted her challenges head-on. As they ascended a rocky slope, the adrenaline shifted, rooting itself into something profound. Sarah discovered a new strength entwined with her growing resolve. But the distance also provided time for reflection and realization. For every moment spent in fear had been an opportunity lost in her life. They crested the hill. The night sky stretched above them, revealing a blanket of stars, a reminder of the vastness of possibilities. But the satisfaction was short-lived. A distant primal growl punctuated the air, freezing them in place. The figure was near, and it was angry. "Sarah." Sam's voice cut through the moment. "It's not over yet." Panic surged through her, but an unwavering resolve flickered to life in her chest. This wasn't merely her battle. It was a journey in reclaiming her agency, forging her strength, and now she felt a palpable fire igniting her ambition. "Let's find the hunter, fast." She turned, determination reshaping her features, ready to confront whatever lurked in the darkness, the challenge only solidifying her resolve. As they pressed on, Sarah realized she was no longer defining herself solely by her fears. Instead, she was carving a new identity born from action and purpose. With each moment that unfolded before her, she stood at the precipice of transformation. Everything she had journeyed through thus far only poised to deepen her resolve. A sudden crash echoed from below, followed by an unsettling growl that swelled with ferocity. The hunter's fate, and theirs, hung precariously in the balance. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation that awaited. It was time to face the embodiment of her deepest fears and discover what lay beyond this pivotal moment. The question rolled through her mind. Were they prepared for the true test ahead, or would this be the moment that unraveled everything she had built? The wind swirled around Sarah and Sam, tugging at their clothes like a playful child. Yet, there was nothing playful about the situation. The growl seemed to vibrate through the soles of her boots and settle deep within her core, awakening every instinct to flee. But the call to action was far stronger. Sarah stepped forward, a courage forged in adversity igniting her steps. "Sarah, wait," Sam said, his voice low, laced with trepidation. "No," she replied abruptly, determination sharpening her tone. Each heartbeat ignited a new flame of resolve. "We can't let fear dictate our movements." With a lingering glance back at Sam, she bolstered her assertiveness, realizing that leadership wasn't just about making decisions, but also about inspiring the courage to follow through. They weren't just two individuals navigating peril, they were a team, each relying on the other to confront their shared fears. Descending another slope, they stumbled upon a ridge lined with jagged rocks, shadowed by the pale moonlight. It provided a strategic vantage point and a brief respite from the haunting sounds enveloping them. Now was not just a moment to regroup, but a moment to reflect. "Do you think we're even close to the hunter?" Sam asked, scanning the terrain below. "I think we're closer than we've ever been," Sarah replied, her mind racing with thoughts. She could feel the heady rush of adrenaline blending with a newfound confidence, the duality of fear and empowerment coursing through her. Adrenaline is a beast that can either tame or silence you. In those moments filled with uncertainty, Sarah knew she had to employ clarity in her thinking. She surveyed their surroundings methodically. If they could pinpoint the sounds of struggle or signs of the hunt, perhaps they could reach the hunter in time. The stakes felt impossibly high, and the unveiling knowledge pierced her mind. Failures here might mean not just loss, but the very essence of her newfound identity. Her heart heavy with responsibility but buoyed with determination, she took a deep breath and decided. We follow the growls. There's a trail. Something primal is leading us. That sounds reckless, Sam countered, but his gaze held a flicker of respect. But I get it. Let's go. They edged down the ridge and back toward the cacophony, scanning for anything that resembled the hunter's presence. Their combined focus turned the terrifying expanse of forest into a map filled with possibilities. No longer were the trees mere obstacles, but potential pathways to their goal. Sarah moved as if she could transform into an extension of the very ground she traversed, feeling muscles tighten and sharpen as decisions shaped her. She felt the previous uncertainties fade, replaced by this new grit. But deep within her thoughts lingered an essential question. Had she leapt into the unknown in defiance of her fears, or had she simply found a distraction from them? There would be no more running from the shadows, not today. They could not break her. She was the architect of her fate. As they reached an opening, the eerie growl intensified, swirling around them, vibrating through her bones. The air thickened with anticipation, thick enough to slice through. She spotted figures in the distance, framed against the pale light, a struggle, a battle, definitive signs of the hunter she sought. Stay behind me, Sarah commanded, no longer uncertain but fully present, aware of the layers of strength she had unearthed. As they crept closer, the unfolding image burned into her memory. The hunter, cornered, and in peril. Yet it wasn't the creature that caught her breath. It was the realization that Sarah had become the protector, not only of those she cared about, but of herself. She wasn't just confronting external dangers now. She was dismantling the quieter specters of her self-doubt and abandonment. Are you ready? Sam whispered as they drew nearer, the final remnants of the flare's glow washing the scene in ominous hues. It's now or never, she said firmly, eyes locked on the struggle before them. She readied herself for the unknown challenges ahead. The moment of truth had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The creature emerged from the shadows, and her breath caught in her throat. It was time to confront not just a hunter's plight, but the bravest parts of herself. Would she rise to the occasion or crumble? Only the next steps would reveal the truth that lay before them. The moment hung suspended, like the breath before a scream. As Sarah and Sam crept closer, the struggle before them sharpened into focus. The glimmer of light illuminated the scene, revealing the hunter's fierce eyes, wide with terror, caught in a trap of unrelenting chaos. Sarah's body tightened, her instincts flaring. Everything within her screamed to shift from observer to participant. A flicker of doubt coursed through her, a nagging voice echoing the insecurities she thought she'd vanquished. But as she stood there, her heart began to drown out that whisper, forging a mantra of strength. I am more than my fears. Sarah, we need a plan, Sam urged, his voice a mixture of urgency and support. It was a reminder that teamwork wasn't just in physicality, but a harmonic blend of strategy and belief. She took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs. We'll create a distraction, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. We need to lead it away, give the hunter a chance. The idea crystallized in her mind, a pathway unfolding through the maze of fear that once constricted her thoughts. Sam nodded, a mixture of trepidation and respect in his eyes. I'll draw its attention. You get to the hunter and help them. The simplicity of the plan belied its complexity. And yet, in this precarious dance of uncertainties and hopes, it felt monumental. As Sam readied himself, adrenaline surged in sync with fresh determination. This wasn't just a fight against a creature. It was the fight for her identity, for the fierce protector she was becoming. She could finally weave courage from everything she had faced before. I'm trusting you, Sam said, uncharacteristically vulnerable. Sarah appreciated the weight of that trust. A glowing ember added to her own flame. With a swift motion, Sam positioned himself, drawing the creature's gaze with a primal shout that echoed confidently across the clearing. The moment the creature turned, Sarah moved, each step punctuated by purpose. She wasn't running. She was launching herself toward her potential. As she reached the hunter, the embodiment of her enervating fears perched before her, she quickly assessed the situation. The hunter's strength appeared to be waning, eyes wide with desperation. "You're going to be all right," Sarah soothed, instinctively finding her voice as a beacon. "What are you doing here?" the hunter gasped, clutching injuries that told tales of fierce battles. "I'm here to help you," Sarah affirmed, feeling the gravity of her words. "We're getting you out. Just stay with me." With the growl reverberating closer, she recognized that time was short. Sarah examined the surroundings. Nearby lay brambles and loose foliage, potential weapons in their defense. In her core, she understood. It was fight or flight, and she was choosing to fight. "Can you walk?" she inquired, her tone urgent but reassuring. The hunter nodded, pulling themselves to their feet with a shaky resolve. Together they began to move, gauging their surroundings while Sam's voice rang out as a decoy, luring the creature away from their position. Sarah felt a jolt of inspiration surge and unexpected compassion through her. She was not just saving a life, she was reshaping her own. They darted toward thick underbrush, hoping to momentarily cloak their presence while strategizing their next move. And there it was, the realization that dawned within her as she took hold of the hunter's hand. The act of protecting had unveiled something far sweeter, a compassionate resilience flourishing amidst turmoil. As they crouched, the sounds of the struggle thundering in their ears, Sarah turned to her companion. "We need to keep moving. We'll face it together, whatever comes next." With adrenaline still burning through her, she sensed the collective strength swirling around them. And as the hunter met her resolute gaze, a flicker of hope ignited. In that moment, the growl roared from nearby, an ominous reminder of their perilous reality. But instead of fear, anticipation coursed through her veins. She wouldn't be a passive player. The final confrontation loomed like a storm on the horizon, and she would stand tall against it. "Are you ready?" she asked bravely, the vibrating tension of the moment igniting her spirit once more. This was no longer just about survival. It was a step toward embracing who she was meant to be. Sarah's heart raced as she prepared for the inevitable clash. Would she rise to seize her opportunities or collapse beneath the weight of her fears? The heartbeat of the forest pulsed around them, quietly whispering that she was on the precipice of something magnificent. As the growl of the creature reverberated, Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline, an electric current of resolve coursing through her. She tightened her grip on the hunter's wrist, their connection a lifeline amid the chaos. Together, they crouched low, the underbrush providing a temporary refuge, but the weight of indecision loomed heavy in the air. "What's the plan?" the hunter whispered, urgency threading their tone. Sarah's mind raced, spooling through possibilities. Every choice felt monumental, a door either to safety or despair. In the brief moments of silence that followed, she visualized a future beyond this moment, a step away from fear and into the essence of her newfound strength. "We follow Sam's voice. Once it's focused on him, we run toward the creek. It'll mask our scent. Are you ready?" "I don't know." The hunter's voice faltered, the flicker of self-doubt evident. That flicker ignited an unexpected understanding within Sarah. She had lived with such doubt herself, but now she was learner and leader, ready to guide them both to safety. "Then let's take that step together. Just follow my lead." In that pivotal second, Sarah realized she had transformed. She was not only a participant, but also a manufactured conduit of strength for another, her anxieties replaced by a contagious determination. As Sam's roars rang out, luring the creature like a bell to a moth, she felt an anchor of resolve lodge firmly in her chest. "I trust you," the hunter finally breathed, and there was a weight in those words, a shared belief that crystallized their resolve. With the creature's gaze drawn away, Sarah launched into action. They darted through the thicket, branches clawing at their clothes, but she felt invincible. This was not mere survival. It was a deliberate assertion of her agency, a carving of her identity in real time. Yet, as they darted toward the creek, shadowy thoughts clawed at her confidence. What if they were too late? What if Sam didn't make it? The anxiety flickered at the edges of her mind, but she pushed it back, focusing instead on the rhythm of her feet hitting the ground, the pulse of clarity marking her path forward. Ahead, the water glistened like a beacon, and adrenaline fueled their flight. "We're almost there," she encouraged, throwing a glance back toward Sam, whose shouts echoed through the foliage, drawing the creature further away. They reached the creek, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to still. A liminal space where hope waged war against dread. Sarah paused, searching for any sign of Sam. The hunter stumbled beside her, clearly exhausted. "Do you really think we can face it?" the hunter asked, vulnerability spilling into the open air, painting a picture of uncertainty. "Absolutely," Sarah affirmed, steadying her breath as she met their gaze. "We've already defied what we thought we could handle." Behind her bravado, doubts flickered. Was she really capable of this? In that moment, Sarah understood that true strength isn't merely about confrontation. It's finding the courage to accept help and reciprocate it. Just as she had drawn the hunter into the fight, she had to cling to the trust Sam had bestowed upon her. Then, the unmistakable sound of crashing footsteps shattered their moment of stillness. The creature was coming, and the time for contemplation had passed. "Stick close to me," Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the tempest of fear churning within. "We won't let it define us. Let's show it what we are made of." But even as her resolve solidified, a flicker of doubt bubbled inside. Was she truly ready to face the danger that loomed? The intersection of fear and strength was a sharp, exhilarating line that now separated her from the life she once knew. Then, as the creature burst into view, towering and primal, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. They had stepped onto the precipice of confrontation. The eyes she once saw, as reflective of her fears, now seemed a mirror of her own indomitable spirit. "Together?" she asked her companion, the urgency of the question hanging heavy. "Yes, together," came the hunter's firm reply, and in that shared vow, they stood as two equals, fearing nothing but the darkness that once defined them. A new tension gripped her chest as they prepared for the inevitable clash. Would this be a culmination of their journey, or merely the beginning of a deeper struggle? The moment had arrived to confront not only the creature, but the shadows lurking within her own heart. As the creature lunged forward, Sarah locked her gaze on its piercing eyes, feeling every ounce of fear transform into an electrifying current coursing through her veins. This was the moment she had trained for, mentally and emotionally, throughout the pursuit of her growth. The hunter stood beside her, equally resolute, ready to face the beast that represented not only danger, but the daunting specter of her own insecurities. "On three," she whispered, adrenaline sharpening her senses to a keen edge. 1, 2, 3. With a synchronized rush, they charged toward the creature, maneuvering like shadows, each step considered and calculated. It was now or never, the outcome resting on their collective determination. As they drew closer, Sarah felt empowered by her choice to confront the fears that had previously paralyzed her. The beast roared, a sound that reverberated through the air, shaking her resolve. But as its attention shifted toward the hunter, Sarah seized the opportunity to dart around its flank. "Now!" she shouted, unleashing a battle cry fueled by conviction. As they maneuvered with an agility that contradicted their fear, the primal instincts ingrained in her surged forward. This was not merely about survival. It was her declaration of independence from doubt. The hunter, emboldened by her presence, launched a distraction, throwing branches to create a commotion, each movement an embodiment of teamwork. Together their actions became fluid, a symphony of purpose as they sought to outsmart the creature. Encouraged by their synergy, Sarah felt each heartbeat pulse with confidence. "We lead it away from the creek," she proclaimed, expertly guiding their path. For the first time, she was more than a mere participant. She was a pivotal force in their survival. As they climbed, dodging underbrush and using the landscape to their advantage, Sarah realized this moment was not only an external battle, but an internal victory too. She struck the balance between raw fear and fierce resolve, exemplifying her growth as a young protector. When the creature faltered, confusion reflecting in its eyes, Sarah seized that pivotal moment of vulnerability. "Now is when we show it our strength," she urged, her voice unwavering. It was not just about saving the hunter anymore. It was about affirming her identity. Together, they doubled back, employing distraction tactics as their teamwork formed a seamless rhythm against the backdrop of the forest. Breathing in sync, they moved as if choreographed, each step resonating with the truth that they were capable of navigating the daunting unknown. Before long, Sam's presence regained focus, darting back into the fray with an assertiveness that seemed to echo their hopes. "You were incredible," he praised, his voice cutting through the tension, reminding Sarah that their bond had heretofore transformed into something formidable. Now, as they rallied for one final confrontation, she stood proud. "Let's finish this together." The unity they created solidified a triumphant force against the looming threat. Every self-doubt, every flicker of uncertainty had morphed into a fierce commitment, a testament to the growth she had achieved alongside her companions. In that final standoff, as the creature lunged once more, the trio stood firm, kettled in their resolve. "Together!" they shouted, moving toward their own fears and hopes alike. The clash was brutal, but it was here that Sarah discovered her true power, not through absence of fear but rather by embracing it, finding a wellspring of courage she hadn't realized resided within. As she fought alongside the hunter and Sam, the shadows of uncertainty began to dissipate into a tangible warmth. In the end, they emerged victorious, not merely having defeated a formidable foe but having conquered the intersections of fear and growth. The sunrise cast a golden hue on their backs as they emerged from the thicket, lungs full of fresh air and eyes wide with newfound clarity. Turning to her companions, Sarah felt a profound sense of accomplishment wash over her. "We did it," she breathed with palpable satisfaction. "Yes, we did," Sam affirmed, his recognition illuminating her spirit. "And you led the way." That recognition cemented her transformation. No longer the girl poised at the brink of fear, she had embraced her strength boldly and authentically. Sarah had achieved something monumental. She had learned to confront her uncertainties, evolve alongside them, and thrive in the beautiful complexity of growth. In the aftermath of chaos, standing in the serenity of the morning light, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. She was not just a participant in life's challenges, but a person of competence and capability, ready to forge ahead with solid confidence and an established resolve. Her journey through the snowy wilderness had unveiled lessons that went far beyond survival, shaping her into a young warrior of her own narrative. And in that moment of accomplishment, she understood that every triumph would add another chapter to the story of her life. Now fully transformed, she shared one last look with Sam and the hunter, acknowledging their partnership in the face of adversity. Together, they had turned a winter hunt into a profound journey of growth, hope, and resilience, an articulation of life's truest potential. The sun rose higher, and Sarah looked forward to the stories she would tell, carrying the seeds of courage within her. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is vital. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this message.